I'm a 28-year-old male. My wedding was last weekend. Most of my family were not invited because they are very homophobic and I've had to cut most of them out over this. The only person that was invited from my immediate family was my older sister, 31 female, who has always been very supportive. She helped with a lot of the planning process leading up to the wedding. The issue came just a week before the wedding when one of her senior cats suddenly got ill. She's had this cat for about 19 years and treats the thing like it's her child. She gives me a heads up that if the cat takes a turn for the worse, she wouldn't be able to attend the wedding. I kinda brushed it off since the cat has had health problems before and it worked out fine. But the morning of the wedding, I got a call from my sister crying that she just had to put her cat down and she wouldn't be able to attend. I'll admit that I definitely lost my temper with her and asked her if she's really going to put her cat dying over her only brother getting married. That she's going to leave me without family at my own wedding and hang up. She didn't show up and that was quickly noticed by everyone at the wedding, taking attention off me and my husband. We have not spoken since our last call and we've never gone so long without speaking together. And now for some comments. You are in the wrong. Would you rather have her on the front row bawling her eyes out? She's in grief for a bit she has had for 19 years. Have a little compassion. You are in the wrong. First, she gave you a heads up that this could happen, and you didn't raise an issue when you were notified. Second, your lack of empathy towards your sister losing someone close to her is appalling. To a lot of cat owners, their cats are something close to a family. And third, taking attention off me and my husband reeks of entitlement. You are in the wrong. To you, it's a cat. To her, it's family. She just literally presided over the death of her best friend since childhood. Is she supposed to come perform happiness at your wedding? You could have said something like, "I'm so sorry, that's really awful. I understand. I would love it if you still feel you can come. I would love to be able to give you a hug and exchange support. And you share some cake and wine. I'm just so sorry." You could have opened the door for your sister to trust that she'd be welcome, just as she was. But no, you blew up and made it a contest between you and her very real fresh grief. It sucks that you didn't have more family at your wedding, but that's on the people who rejected you, not on your sister. She can't make up for their fallings. Apologize, mean it, and sincerely ask how she's doing since her loss. Neighbor's kid parked his SUV in front of our house 7 days ago. No biggie. They have a 4-car driveway and a spot outside of their house, but why worry? 3 days later I knocked on their door to ask if they could move it the next morning for 2 to 3 hours. As I was going to trim the trees and power wash a drive and sidewalk, they told me no. You can park anywhere you want on public ways. In our neighborhood with no HOA at least, decided to call non-emergency police. And it checks out. And they are right. After a few calls of being told this over the weekend, I called again. Instead of making a complaint, I pretended like I was going out of town. I wanted to make sure I could legally leave one of my vehicles in front of my neighbor's place for a few weeks. They said, as long as it's parked legally and up to code, no flat tires or expired tags. Tags expired. I told them the real story and asked to have it escalated. Police on their way now. Only took about 6 calls and tricked him to tell me the full rules. They left out those requirements when they dismissed my initial calls. And now for some comments on the story. You're not in the wrong. I'm not sure how people missed it unless it was an edit, but you clearly noted that the tags are expired, which means the car is not legally parked on the street. That right there is the end of the story for you. Everybody sucks. They can park there and there. You do not have ownership over that spot. They are also jerks for not moving their car so you can do the stuff you discussed, but that's it. Calling the cops 6 times because someone was parked there? Insane. By the way, what was wrong with their vehicle? Was it not inspected and registered and all that? Everybody sucks. Yes, it's a public street, but common courtesy dictates that you park outside your own home if there is space. So your neighbor is a jerk for parking his car outside your house when there is space outside his own that he unaccountably refuses to use. Your neighbor is also a jerk for not moving his car when you say you want to trim the trees and his car's in the way. You're a jerk because calling the cops on their expired tags is kind of a jerk escalation of your stupid neighborhood squabble. I, a 30-year-old female, live with my husband in an apartment complex. I have an older sister with 2 kids, nephew 3 and niece 6. Her husband, kid's stepdad, and I don't get along and disagree on a lot of things. I don't know if the real problem is me or him, but he has resentment towards me. I watch my sister kids from time to time and her husband is fine with it, as far as I know. Last week we all met at my uncle's home except my husband. Brother-in-law and I got into a stupid argument when brought up my husband's mental struggle and made fun of it. I embarrassed him saying that at least my husband has a real struggle and not neglecting his stepkids to go gamble with friends and get his wife into debts to pay. He got offended, made a scene and then left. My sister came over the next day with the kids and apologized, then asked if I could watch the kids till 1 p.m. I said absolutely. The kids are innocent in this and my sister is trying to make a living and pay off debts. At 10 a.m. my husband was asleep when the door knocked and I opened and there was a cop standing outside. First I thought my unhinged mother called the cops. Another story. But I was shocked when the cop told me that my brother-in-law called him claiming that I was having his stepkid stay with me despite him not agreeing. I told him there must have been a misunderstanding because the kid's mother brought them to me to babysit after she asked and I said yes as their aunt. I even called my sister and put her on speaker and she was confused. She told the cop her husband knew and had no problem with her bringing the kids over to me and even gave permission. At this point, I figured brother-in-law was trying to get back at me because of our argument. I was terrified because if my sister didn't confirm what I said, then my brother-in-law could have framed me for God knows what, especially after he claimed that my husband was mentally unstable. The cop took my sister's contact information and told her to come pick the kids up. This was ruled out as a family dispute, but I was shaken up by what happened because I had unpleasant encounters with the authorities, but this cop seemed understanding yet strict. My sister said she just got into a fight with her husband for basically calling the cops and lying to them to get back at me and kept apologizing saying this won't happen again. I was upset. I said I don't care, I won't be babysitting the kids for her anymore because like I said, I have so much on my plate and don't want issues with the authorities. She's begged saying she's struggling with money and cannot afford a babysitter right now. She reminded me of how much she supported me in the past, which is true, and I felt bad for not wanting to help her while she's struggling knowing her husband is a problem, but I suggested her husband to step up since he doesn't want me watching his stepkids, but she says it's complicated. So, am I in the wrong for saying this? You're not in the wrong. Of course you can't babysit again. I am sorry for your sister and the kids, but there is just no way you can be expected to put yourself in that situation again. Not in the wrong. However, you might reconsider and ask your sister for a notarized letter that you are allowed to babysit her kids. Otherwise, her husband has won. This is one of those ones where the binary judgments don't really line up right. The disagreement is between you and your sister, neither of whom are being the jerk. But not that jerk doesn't really make a lot of sense because her husband is clearly a gigantic one. And not that jerk judgment absolves you but seems to leave her on the hook for being in what is pretty clearly an abusive relationship. I hope you can find a way to help her leave that man and find stability and safety in her life without sacrificing your own stability and safety in the process. So I, 24 male, have a younger brother, 16 male, let's call him Jake. We never had a very close relationship due to being far apart in age. Jake and I are pretty different people as of now and don't really have too much in common. This mixed with his teenage angst and me living in my own apartment We almost never talk. Jake is a pretty stereotypical lacrosse pro. He has a girlfriend and goes out to parties. My parents have issues with Jake's lifestyle, but at this point they are done parenting, so he kinda does whatever he wants as long as he gets okay grades. It's pretty much known that Jake is drinking and smoking weed on the weekends. Nothing out of the ordinary for a high school boy, but he just sucks at hiding it. I don't have a problem with this, I just would like to see my brother go down a better path. During high school and college, I had a massive drug problem. I was pretty good at hiding exactly what I was doing, but my parents knew I was on something. I hurt a lot of people and put myself in some very dangerous situations. I almost died and could have spent serious time in jail. It is a miracle I made it out. I got clean after leaving my senior year and lived a relatively successful life without drugs. Last weekend, my brother texted me that he's in trouble. He was at a party with alcohol and he needed someone to talk on the phone with the police. He wanted me to pretend to be our dad and say that he can go home. Otherwise, the police would drive him to our parents' house and tell our parents he got in trouble. I saw his text messages and did not respond. I could have called and pretended to be our dad easily, but I didn't want to bail him out of the punishment. I look at my past and almost wish I got in trouble at his age. Something to set me straight and see that breaking the law has consequences. Underage drinking is really a slap on the wrist in my area. Half the kids in my high school get one eventually, and it won't mess up his life for more than a few weeks. I texted him the next day and said that he needed to face the consequences for his actions. That this is a good lesson about being an adult in the real world. I also told him about my issues and how I don't want him to end up down the same road as me. He cursed me out and did not respond. I know my past doesn't mean my brother will go down the same path. I just see him making the same decisions I made and becoming the same person I was. However, I am wondering if I'm being the jerk here. And now for some comments. You're not in the wrong, but your parents are done parenting. Your brother is 16. They are in the wrong and need to step up and be parents. You did absolutely the right thing. Not in the wrong. I also had a serious problem with pills and alcohol when I was a kid. My brothers were worse and were heroin addicts for many years and are both finally sober for a good amount of time now. And I was able to clean up my act on my own in my early 20s. But like, where the heck are your parents? They can't be just done with parenting. 16 years old are so influential and need guidance. Not absent parents. Not for nothing, but they kinda sound like bad parents if they know all of this but choose to ignore it. My parents were bad too, but at least they tried to get my brothers into rehab several times. No, you're not in the wrong. I think you made the right call and explained your logic to him in a very fair way. Let him be mad. Edit. Thanks for the input, guys. Glad to see people's opinion on the situation. I've seen some comments on my phrasing that my parents gave up. They are still good parents and are very involved with Jake's life. Just burned out from raising my sister and I. They tend to let him get away with things that I wouldn't have. They obviously care that Jake is out drinking, but at this point understand that he's going to do it regardless of how much they punish him. The same way I did and my sister did. They still love and support him. Just let him get away with too much sometimes.